the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write our story.
Hello, everyone. Half a day, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. It is Gary Wise, Wise Leadership Solutions, and I am so excited for today's podcast because we've got a shipmate of mine from definitely the most challenging tour of my 25-year career. It was my time on board the USS George Washington. We were forward deployed out of Yokosuka, Japan, 2010 to 2013. This young man worked for me, served with me there, and his name is Mr. Matt Clipfield. Matt, what is up, dude?
How are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing good, bro. Holy cow. I never thought I would get this opportunity to get in the room with you again and to talk, bro. Like, it's so cool that you took the time to be here.
Of course. Yeah. I was kind of mind blown. I was like, I just got off the phone with Kyle Passion, actually. I was like, just got off the phone with them. We're hoping to meet up here in Tahoe. I live next to Lake Tahoe, and so he does an annual trip over to Tahoe every year, and we meet up, say hello, and chat. And he's like, "You're doing a podcast with Gary? That's awesome!" And so he was asking about your podcast and what you're doing on here, and yeah,
I'd love to get him on. Didn't he want to be a paramedic or a nurse or something like that?
Yes, he's a full-blown paramedic with San Francisco Fire right now.
I remember that. I remember that was what he wanted to do. Good for him, bro. Like, he did that.
I know.
That's awesome. So you're in Lake Tahoe. Were you from Lake Tahoe originally?
No, I was came from Southern California. Grew up my whole life in Southern California. Moved to a couple different places there, and then I kind of realized at the age of 17, I thought the military was kind of the way to go for how my life was tracking and things like that. So I shipped off when I was 17 to boot camp.
Wow. So what made you decide to join the Navy, bro? Like, out of all the options, I mean, for me, my dad was in the Navy. My grandpa was in the Navy. So I had this connection to the Navy. Was that similar for you?
No, but I kind of found out a couple more. I didn't know my dad's side of the family very well. And when I finally was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm joining the military. I think it's going to be the Navy." At first, I was not set on the Navy. I was a young kid. I kind of knew college. I was going to go on a bunch of debt. I didn't have any money, things like that. I was working at Walgreens. I was like, I'm joining the military. And I went to the Marines right away. I was like, I'm going to go be a Marine, 17 years old. And the guy called me, the recruiter called me every single day. I was like, dude, I'm still in high school. I'm signing papers. And I went and just talked to the Navy, the coolest recruiter ever. He's like, hey, man, who did he remind me of? Not the Chang, but the it's when the chief goes into it's not a full-blown officer position.
Like an LDO or a
he was a bigger guy though. Golly, what was his name? Bigger guy, about 6'3", African American.
Fire marshal?
Fire marshal, yes. And so he was like him, the recruiter. So cool. It was so easy. And that's where it kind of went from there. I was fully set on joining the Marines, and then I went to the Navy. Anyways, backstory: my grandpa had been in the Navy, and my dad told me after I switched from Marines to Navy. I don't have a lot of background about that family, but he's like, "Oh, Grandpa was in the Navy. That's cool." So
yeah, that is cool. That is cool. And I think it's funny that you remember the fire marshal. Remember we had that real tall fire marshal.
Oh yeah.
And we had Fire Marshal McBride. Okay, we'll talk about those guys in a minute. We'll get to there. All right, so you decide you want to join the Navy. You go talk to the recruiters. Did you have any idea what you wanted to do in the service, or you just didn't really care?
Nope, didn't. I didn't know. I didn't really have anybody guiding me along. It was kind of on my own time. I went, rode my bicycle over to the recruiting office. I was like, hey, I'm not going to college. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And so I wish I would have been, if my kids or someone I was close to was joining the military, I'm like, listen, we need to, lock down your ASVABs, like study, do all these. I didn't do any of that. I just went in. I was like, hey, I want to take tests. Let's do this thing, So I was a little bit,
I get it, man. When I joined the Navy, I was just thankful to have a job. I was thankful to have an opportunity, and I really didn't know what I didn't know. and I was undesignated. I mean, so at least you came in with an A school and came in with the job. And so let's go and back it up real fast. How was your boot camp experience? Did you mind it? Did you think it was that big of a deal? Did you think it sucked?
I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it, and obviously they want to make it hard, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of needed to get out of the situation I was in as a kid. I was like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to be shipped off to some part of the country. I thought it was fun, exciting. I needed to change this scenery. And, there were definitely points where it absolutely sucks, right? No, I
Yeah.
don't think anybody could deny that. Remaking your bed 60 times in a night. So,
Yeah.
there's definitely points where it sucked, but the food was actually pretty decent. The cooks
Yeah.
were really nice, although if you took the ice cream, we all kind of know what happens there and you get in big trouble. We did that a few times as a division. We all decided at night, we're like, we're doing it. So we got in some trouble. Everybody gets in a little bit of trouble at boot camp, whether you're on watch and you're not saying your correct commands and things like that. So
Yep.
it's
100%.
frustrating. You're tired, but I was excited to be there. So
No, and I would tell you, it's part of the journey, right? It's part of
Yeah.
the journey strategically. They're going to start to give you the ability to recognize you can recover,
Yeah.
right? Because life is hard and it's never going to always go the way you think it's going to go. And the goal, at least as a war fighter, as a sailor, is you never know when it's going to go sideways on you, right? I mean, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk about this when you get in your career, but you and I both know that it can go from Tuesday to freaking problem day any
Yeah.
second, and then we're doing what we got to do, and that starts in boot camp, right? That starts
Mhm.
with, can you embrace the suck? And like, I'm not surprised to hear you say you liked it, because you were always that dude. You were always, from my perspective anyway, super resilient, super quick to reframe. Even when you would be frustrated, you would still, all right, what's the real problem? And then get after it. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that you enjoyed it, right? Because again, guys like you thrive in those environments, right?
Yeah.
Guys like me, we thrive in those environments. I understand.
Mhm.
I can relate. How was it once you graduated? Did your parents come to boot camp graduation?
No, nobody
Okay,
there. Yeah.
I get
No.
it. My parents didn't either, couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
So how was it when you went from basic training RTC across the street to A school in Great Lakes? How long were you there for?
2 months. Just around 2 months, I think is what it was. Yeah, pretty much at boot camp, we actually got caught in it was a massive snowstorm in Chicago. So I was there for an extra week and a half. There was only 22 guys there, and the rest of our division didn't show up because of all these snowstorms. It was frigid temperatures.
Right.
So I spent about 2 months at boot camp, and then I spent, I think, about 2 months in A school as well. And that was
And
fun.
was it fun? Did you enjoy going like to the Gurney Mills Mall, going to Chicago, or did
Yeah.
you just kind of hang out around the barracks and the base?
We definitely went out exploring in Chicago a few nights and had some fun. When we got, I think there was multiple levels of I forgot. I'm forgetting the terminology, but
Right.
essentially you get your A card, B card, C card, and
Your
that gives you
Liberty cards. Yep.
more freedom. And so, once we got kind of the full access of like, hey, yeah, you're in school, but after you're done with your stuff, go out. We definitely had some weekends out and about, but I spent a lot of time on base just playing football, doing things like that with, all the guys on base.
Well, and being young, right? You got some money, but not a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
And how soon did you find out you were going to go to overseas duty your first time, your first ship? How soon did you find that out?
That was a week before I left. So I don't know how fast people usually get orders, but I think A school was about done. And I was like, we're all waiting on getting orders. It felt like last second we got them. And I was super excited, super scared. The other problem was I had a long-term girlfriend, high school, thing going. And so I was like 3.5 years and I was like, I'm going to Japan. There's no way this is going to work in the back of my head. So yeah, scared, a little uneasy, but I was definitely excited. I was like, dude, I'm going to Japan. I'm going to live there. That's awesome. So
yeah.
Mhm.
Did you have any buddies that went to A school with you that also went to the GW?
Not a single
No.
one. No.
Okay, so you were going to go to the George Washington. And do you remember what time of year? What year did you come to Japan?
2011, middle of summer. Got there right in the middle of summer. I started boot camp, went to boot camp February 2nd. So about 4 months later, puts me around August time from, I think, February, March.
So,
maybe it was June, July
okay.
that I got to the shop.
Was that after the earthquake had happened already?
Yes, right after, like 2 weeks after.
Okay, because there was like, for me, my existence on that ship, there was before the earthquake and after the earthquake. And it was because we had so much work to do. Just freaking, remember when Quiddick would have to go around like searching the whole ship for like, I'm trying to get Quiddick on the show. Quiddick, if you hear me, I want to get you on this show. He's a freaking lawyer now.
That's not surprising.
No, not at all. He's on my LinkedIn. Super and cool. I can see what he's. I've messaged him already. I would love to get Quiddick on here. He was a freaking beast too. Okay, so you get there after the earthquake, and so we've gone through this whole thing where we were underway at sea, doing a yard period. We're coming back in to get everything put away. And do you get there before we go on that next patrol?
So you'll probably remember this because we missed Thailand a few times, but that was the one and only time I hit Thailand. We flew in. I landed on the ship when you guys reported in Thailand. So actually, one of the first interactions we ever had. Got there and you're like, "Who's your Liberty buddy?" I was like, "This girl named Melissa, I think." So,
okay.
And we had one day in Thailand there.
Girl named Melissa. Who was the Melissa? Was she a DC man?
No, she was an ABE, if you recall.
Is that your wife? Is that her?
Yeah, that's my wife.
You knew her that fast?
So it's funny that you ask if I came over to Japan anyone. After A school, landed, came back home, did all the leave thing. And then I flew up to Washington to fly out to the ship, and there was a whole bunch of sailors there. And Melissa was in a giant group of ABEs all going to the George Washington. So I kind of got into their friend group, and so I was hanging out with all of the ABEs who were flying to the ship because I was like the lone DC man there.
Right.
So when we got the Patriots landing, that's who I was like going out, hanging out with and things like that. And that's how I met Melissa.
Hey man, that thing is dope, bro. Like the fact that, hold on, had you already cut off the previous relationship?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was a quick turn, bro. Okay, anyway, moving on.
Well, that was a quick turn because in boot camp, she went to prom with another guy. And so when I got orders, we kind of got, I was a dumb kid. We talked when I got to A school, just like, whatever happened. Okay. Yeah. So I kind of knew it wasn't going to happen.
I think it's freaking amazing that you met this person that fast at Patriots Landing or whatever it was. And then you guys not only had a long-term friendship connection, whatever it is, you're still together and you now have created a family together. So I would put that in God's plan, my personal opinion, right? And just so you know, I didn't want to care about all of the rules that I had to manage as a senior chief, as a master chief. Trust me, it's exhausting, right? But you do what you do, right? It is what it is, and you just try your best. So when you get to the ship, what was your first impression? I mean, coming in Thailand, of course, we're all over the place. Everyone's scattered. I'm probably there because I never left the boat, but I mean, everybody else is on Liberty. So when we finally get back to getting underway, what are you thinking? You first get to the DC division.
Well, so the first thing, we get there, most people are on Liberty and there's someone on duty. And so the first person I had, besides you, I met you right away and you're like, okay, go get your stuff unpacked.
Yeah.
We'll get you all settled in, things like that. I went up to the front. I think the front of the ship was the systems shop at the time.
Yep.
Well, that's where DC2 French was hanging out. And so I talked to French like 3 or 4 hours that night.
Yeah.
He's
another one I want to get on the podcast, bro. Yeah. Like French, when French was on the GW, he got his degree from the same college I got my degree from. He was doing something very similar to me, and we've stayed connected over like the Book of Faces, and I seen him go on to have a career in occupational safety and health and do good things. And so I'd love to get it. And he was another shaker and mover, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember or not, but there was not a lot of senior people in our division in that ship. There wasn't. No. I was there on an aircraft carrier. You're supposed to have a DC Master Chief, a DC Senior Chief, 2 chiefs, like 7 first classes, and like 12 E5s. We had me.
Chief.
We had 8, and that he was new, right? He was new. My first 9 months, I didn't have him, and he came right about that same time, and then he left not too long after that, right? And then very few. Douglas was my first class, and then eventually I got Fuqua, and then I had a bunch, and eventually like Falcon would make DC-1, but I had a bunch of junior sailors that I grew up to being DC-2s. But it's also, that's kind of how the Navy is in Japan, right? A lot of the senior people, they know how to fail like screenings. So like if they don't want to go to Japan, they won't pass overseas screening. And so it's just how it is, right? And so even when I went back as a command master chief for my ship, we had the same problems, but I used the same strategy I used on board the GW, right? Here's the deal, guys. We got to grow out of these junior people the leaders we need, and they will rise to the occasion. And that's exactly what we did. And it still works, but it's tough because of maturity levels and perspectives. And of course, it's a lot of responsibility, right? It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress. People don't understand. I mean, looking back on my life, GW broke me a few times. I just was stupid enough to not recognize it, right? I just kept on going. Like there's no stopping, there you go. What was the first shop you went into? Did you go to system shop right away?
Yes. So
you were pretty much system shop all the time. So for people listening on board the ship and in the damage control community, in particular on aircraft carriers, you have installed firefighting systems and suppression systems. You have portable firefighting gear and, of course, damage control systems. You have repair locker gear, which is designed to help us fight the ship and defend the ship. And then you've got like chemical, biological response gear or whatnot. And then, of course, there's a training part of this because damage controlmen, which is what Matt did, which is what I did for the majority of my career, we're not just the emergency responders, but we're also the primary trainers of the entire crew because odds are we're not going to make it very long and the ship's going to have to continue to go forward. And so the idea is this small group of people is going to train the entire ship. And that's our job. And one of my biggest frustrations with the Navy to this day, and I'm sure you would understand this, is the amount of maintenance that they expected us to do pound for pound, right? It was a lot, dude.
It was
unreal. Unreal. I remember just thinking to myself, like, do the math, bro. Do the math. The math doesn't math when you only have 50 people and you've got to do X amount of man hours of PMS by the book with the book open, to coin a phrase, right? In the words of the great commanding officer we had, right? And then, and then to try to do it all the way right was just, and then of course, we used to run 2 GQs a week. Remember that?
That was gnarly.
So I don't know where you want to go. What do you remember about that shit? What do you think?
We were in the middle of, the deployments were one thing, but then also the work up to the deployment. So when we're back at home in Japan, it wasn't any less stressful almost. It possibly made it more stressful because you're like, I can go outside, I can leave the boat, but you really couldn't most of the time. Yeah. I think we went through a lot, whether it was deployments, all of the humanitarian aid we were providing to folks while we were out there, as well as that huge, you're going to have to help me recall the names here. I'm getting too far out of it, but we did that. It was when we were in Japan, when they came and inspected all of our stuff.
Oh, INSERV.
INSERV. INSERV was, yes.
INSERV was tough. And, I remember I used to have that picture of that frog going down the snake's throat, right? And I was like, we're the frog. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's just the odds are against because again, I don't know if you knew this because you're kind of your perspective, but the
Mhm.
GW had this big fire,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
that was where I first got exposed to the George Washington was in the fire because
Yeah.
I was the carrier lead in San Diego. And so they asked me to come there. Well, after the fire, really nothing got put back the way that it was supposed to go. And then they handed the ship over from one crew to a whole nother crew, right? And then you had all this animosity between crews. And so our generation of sailor was the ones coming out of that whole era, right? The
Mhm.
Kitty Hawk guys were kind of all leaving. The East Coast GW guys were kind of all leaving. And the GW was becoming this new thing. And I remember getting ready for in-serve with Senior Chief Shaw,
Oh
who
yeah.
so Senior Chief Shaw was a friend of mine, right? We had worked together at a float training group San Diego, and he
Mhm.
had come to me offline and he was like, Gary, I'm already gonna go warrant officer. I'm already selected. Bro, you need help. Would
Yeah.
you let me? And he knew I wouldn't just let anybody in my space. Like I was very protective of my people, my team, all that. And he was just like, you need help, dude. Can I come help you?
That's
And I was
awesome.
just like, thank God. Come help me. And I
Okay.
remember we had to draw H-F system
Oh
for
yeah.
the whole ship.
Yes. Yes. We had to redo all of the drawings. And Tyler Combs played a major,
Yeah.
he was very good with those systems as well.
He was in Combs would be another great guy to have on here
Yeah.
because again, we should have had that.
Yeah.
Like this
Oh
is
yeah.
not something we should have to recreate. And when we would get the drawings from other aircraft carriers, we would find out it wasn't the same as our aircraft carrier. And
Yeah.
so we went, that was one of the most
That was tough.
I remember being underway and just switching a lens like, okay, underway, the clock is nothing but a round thing with numbers on it. And I'm going to work until I can't work anymore because, oh my God. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but I was actually applying for the Command Senior Chief program. Okay.
Um,
And sometime in between the earthquake and in-serve, my life just went upside down. Right. And I was just like, you know what? I need to not worry about career advancement and promotion. I need to let my family know that they're my number one priority. And I need to let my division know I'm not going anywhere and like I'm focusing on in-serve. And that so I pulled that package
okay.
and I did. I pulled it, and the captain got so angry at me for doing that because they had wasted some of their capital on my progression, and
Mhm.
that they essentially were trying to harpoon my career. But I ended up making Master Chief anyway, so it worked out, right? But
I watched you go from chief to master chief while I was there. That was
yeah,
awesome. Mhm.
it was that ship was good to me, but it was a tough boat, man. It was a tough ship. Um, so thinking back on the insert preps, looking back, so we had a training period every year. People
Yeah.
don't do that in regular ships.
No.
Every year we did a training cycle, right?
Yeah.
When you look at InServe, do you feel like that went well, or do you feel like it did not go well?
I thought we did pretty well. I mean, I remember, I think during InServe, we ran all of the AFFF systems. I mean, we had all of our equipment laid out. I thought everything went actually better than we thought it might, is what my initial reaction was. Oh, we worked so hard for that. And I hope it went well.
Did it did go well. I will tell you that. And I will there were a few areas that were tough, but it wasn't our fault. It was just sometimes things happen, like an SOPV would break
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever, right? We can't control that, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the biggest problems we had was we had a tag out violation for Halon tags when a couple of our DC ones made
Yeah.
bad choices. I
Yeah.
remember going down to the chief engineer's office and putting my anchors on the ground, like, bro, I'm the guy to yell at. Put me in trouble for that because evidently I'm failing them. But can you yell at me later? Because we're in the middle of this big inspection,
Yeah.
and I'll come back later. I promise to get yelled at. And they were
Yeah.
both fortunately taken care of, and we came through it all. But that was a big faux pas on our behalf,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was we just had some material issues. But I will tell you, we went from that. So when I first got to GW, it was the ship that had caught on fire, and they didn't know where their stuff was at. Not 2.5 years later, we went through InServe under our own power. Like
Mhm.
we did the plan, we executed the plan, and we did it, and then we smoked that next training cycle.
Yeah, we
Like
did.
carrier results ever. All y'all got NAMs, all y'all got awards, right? It was just like freaking everybody gets stuff, right? It was so great.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that was the end of my tour. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've never been prouder. I mean, my Ashland tour was good too, but the difference was I had a lot of like upper level leaders. You guys were my freaking Lord of the Flies, young, crazy DC men. And oh, by the way, half the division was girls.
Yeah, I
Right?
know. I
Half
know.
the division was females,
Oh, yeah.
and they were freaking.
Yeah,
They were throwing down, dude. It was
they
freaking.
were.
I loved it, man.
Oh yeah. Throw Delgado and Davalos on a freaking hose and they'll run it. So
100%. And I will tell you, like, whenever I talk to anybody from that time on board the George Washington, especially like the damage control training team, all of them went on to like make Master Chief, Warrant
mhm.
Officer, like they all went on to do great things. So it was a very good time, but it was hard to feel like we were doing good because
Yeah,
there was no time to breathe,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
As soon as it was over, the next problem had already arisen and we were trying to figure it out, you know.
Mhm.
So as you're now, were you on the ship even after I left?
Yes, yeah. So I stayed. Oh gosh, the next Master Chief that took over for you, Gabbard.
Gabbard, yep,
I was on there for about a year and a half with Master Chief Gabbard.
yep.
And Bailey, did he make Chief by then?
No,
I don't
Daly made
know.
chief with
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Yeah.
No,
So
so Daly left the GW and went through DC school where I was an instructor, and he
cool.
made chief.
Cool.
And so I got to initiate Walter there.
I
So
saw that. Yes.
that was very special, man,
Yes.
because he had a rough tour on board the GW with family, with work,
Oh yeah.
and and he had survived, right? He had
Yeah.
survived. Fuqua too. Fuqua just
Oh yeah.
retired.
I know. I saw it.
Yeah, but Fook and Daly are both Chiefs, and they're both getting. I mean, Fook just retired. I think Daly's about to retire. So how much different was it for you guys having a different Master Chief than me on board? Was there a lot of different in our leadership styles?
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah.
I would say there was definitely a difference. I would, there was a difference in leadership, but there was also just a difference in like preparation, I would say. And that's not to call out anybody at the
No.
US.
Sonny's a friend of mine, right? Like we're boys. Like I
Yes.
love
That was
Sonny to
awesome.
death, but we're just different, right? And
Yes.
I know that my style is a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so I was curious for the feedback, what your perspective was having that different year or 2 years or whatnot.
It was, we were still doing our thing with PMS, maintenance,
Yeah.
GQ. All of those were, all that was kind of the same flow. We were still working our butts off. I would say, I think we lost a little bit of, teamwork when it came to like Q1s and Q2s doing those major maintenance things. It
Yep.
was not as organized. It was a little more stressful. It didn't feel as, just dialed in. And I think that's probably the most important maintenance we're doing with those massive 70 tag outs and things like that. So
Yep.
that was, I think there was some difference there and a little bit of maybe not frustration, but worriness. It's like, okay, do we got this right? So because
Yeah.
those were intimidating.
Well, and I think that would also be you guys probably had more responsibility because when he got there, most of you were already second classes or first classes. And in his mind, he's probably like, oh, they've got this. Gary's trained them all up. Whereas for me, I was always very heavily involved in it.
Yes.
But what's funny is I learned all that there. Like I knew I had never even done any of that stuff before I got to the carrier. Yeah. My first ships were old Gators, bro. Like I didn't even have SCBAs. I never touched the SOPV like actually when I got to the George Washington. Like I was either stuck in my first ship, I was undesignated in the main space, stand at watch. My second ship, I ran the DCPO, like what Quiddick was doing. I ran the DCPO shop. And then when I tried to get into systems or tried to get in repair lockers, they make me the chief. So now I'm just in charge of things, right? And so it's just a different perspective.
Yes.
And so when I got to George Washington, there was things I just didn't know. And so like I would be 100% like behind French and be like, all right, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, yeah,
I'd have to trust, but the difference would be like, but I would have to keep pushing until we got it done. I couldn't just accept, oh, we can't do it, because that's not always gonna work, right? Do you remember the time the list control pumps sucked up those plastic like I don't even know what they're called, like tarps. Remember that night? The list control pumps, there was plastic tarps on our list control system, and Senior Chief Shaw and I broke the list control pumps apart. And I forget, I don't know if it was you or if it was Combs. So you guys were helping us with tag outs and with tools and material.
Okay.
And we were down there working on the pumps. And like as soon as we fixed one pump, the other pump wrapped up in a thing the same night. That was a crazy night.
Yeah. Was that underway?
Yeah, underway.
Okay. I think I do remember, and I think it was me and Tyler running tags.
I think it was too. It was underway. It was right below the DC training classroom in that little freaking list control area. And in one night, we rebuilt 2 list control pumps, and then we didn't have all the right tools. We had to get the Chang to come down there and give us permission.
Yeah.
And it was a little shady lady that doing what we could. But it was like, if we didn't fix those pumps, we couldn't fly aircraft, right?
No.
When you look back, okay, so after or towards the end of your time in the Navy, what was your thought process as to when you were going to get out or stay in? I mean, did you know that you and Melissa were going to get married, and were you like, look, the Navy is not going to be conducive to what we want to do, so you both were like, we're just going to get out?
I think so. Initially, 17 years old, I was like, I'm going to retire by 40. I'm going to be out in the Navy. I want to retire. I'll do this long term. If I had not met Melissa, I think I would still be in right now. So, yes, we ended up getting engaged after 2.5 years. We went home on leave together, met the fams. We got engaged, and that was kind of, she was like, I don't think I'm going to do this long term. I'm like, I understand. Right. And I was still skeptical up to about a year left. And I was like, okay, let's, we just started talking about building life and things like that. I was like, okay, we'll get out. We're going to go to school. We'd already been going to school a ton underway and things like that. I mean, me, Monroy, Tyler, and Melissa were just out down there doing homework every night for college.
Monroy, there's a blast from the past. She was another solid one for sure.
She was me, Tyler, and Monroy. So like I think before you kind of had French, Luke True, and some of those guys that kind of really made like the solid, like I guess, systems team. And then in my mind, me, Monroy, and Tyler were running tags, doing we were just up every night, it felt like. So that was kind of our little team right there. Of course, with the rest of the group too, but
no, I would agree to that. Just you guys just worked well together, and you understood the strategy behind it, right? Because you had to strategically approach certain parts of what we would do, because there took preparation. You had to do the procedural thing. Otherwise, you couldn't defend your maintenance. And that's what it's all about, right? It wasn't, which is why InServ is so awesome. It's not about all the crap admin. It's about, does it work or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
I agree with you. InServ is my favorite inspection. So when it came to the end of your career, were you excited to get out of the Navy, or were you just like, dang, I kind of wish, did it not meet your expectations? Were you a little bit disappointed by what your time had been like? Because some people will look like, I've got buddies that were DC men and they didn't fight nearly enough fires to help themselves feel validated, right? Or they didn't do enough things to help them to feel like they'd really done what they felt like they were going to do. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I do wish we had, actually, I don't want this ship on fire, but I think, going in, you're like, this is awesome. Let's go fight some fires. Most of the fires we encountered were electrical fires, monitoring it before electricity got turned off, and small, tiny little things like that. We did, I did do some, one of the waste discharge pumps, one of those exploded in port, and I had to go down there like halfway under sewage and turn that off. Got a NAM for that, and we fought a few bigger leaks on the ship. So got to do some things that I thought were a little exciting.
Do you remember the time we almost flooded out the shaft alley from the list control system?
Oh yeah.
because we were remember how much time we used to transfer water
I know.
with tanks and voids, and then
Mhm.
we accidentally almost flooded a freaking
Yeah.
shaft alley.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yes.
Like it was, the shafts were underwater.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so things could happen fast.
Yep.
I would say luckily nothing too major happened during us. I don't think it was a discipline. I think it was a lot of work, really stressful. It is hard being away from your family, when you're that young, gone for
Mhm.
4 years, and then you meet this nice young lady who,
I
we
get
got
it.
engaged and things like that. And so that was really ultimately why we got out of the military.
Awesome. So when you got out of the service, or you were planning to get out of the service, what was your plan? Did you you were getting college done while you're in the military, but did you already kind of have an idea like what you wanted to do? Like, did you want to go get more of an education? Did you just want to go get a job in a certain field? Did you want to keep working firefighting? Like, what were you thinking?
Absolutely. So I immediately, first day off leave, so Melissa's family had moved down from Sandpoint, Idaho to Carson City, Nevada while we were in the military. And that's where we ended up visiting. And I proposed up at Lake Tahoe. And so we loved the area. We thought it was cool. We knew, we kind of wanted to be on the West Coast somewhere, whether it was Southern California near my family or where her family was. And I fell in love with Carson City. So it was kind of an easier decision as far as financials, getting out of the military and things like that. I forgot what was
Did you have a plan? Like, did you have a career in mind that you wanted to go for, or were you just not sure?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to be a firefighter. I thought that would have been a great career. I went to 4 or 5 firehouses around here. I was like, hey, I got, all of my credentials that you can get in the Navy. So I got that certificate and things like that. And I had started education. I was like, I'll get my education. They essentially said, yeah, go get your paramedics license. That's how you get onto a firehouse right away. And me and Melissa, we kind of moved quickly. Our kids are 7 and 9 now. So we moved rather quickly after the military with kids and things like that. But I ended up going and volunteering. I was just looking at different jobs, talking to firehouses, looking at starting schooling to go be a paramedic or to get in the fire field. Or like Tyler, I actually thought about going and working on like commercial firefighting systems. That's what he does. He's a pipe layer for these big firefighting systems at these massive warehouses. And I went and volunteered with the U.S. Geological Survey, and it was with my father-in-law. He was working there, and we were out there in the Sierra Mountains making a flow discharge measurement. And I was like, well, this is cool. I can do this. So I volunteered for a week or 2. They actually hired me on as like a temporary employee, and I kind of fell in love with water, doing water quality and flow discharge stuff. And so I spent 9 years with the U.S. Geological Survey and got my degrees, got 2 bachelor degrees and associates in science and water monitoring. So that's kind of
cool. Is that what you're still doing to this day?
Yes. So I don't work for the U.S. Geological Survey anymore. I work for a company that develops and trains on and sells the equipment that agencies like the U.S. Geological Survey or California Department of Water Resources, all of the equipment they're using to do like water quality or look at how much water is in the river, or bathymetric surveys where you're actually mapping out the bottom of reservoirs, or oceanographic applications. So that's the company I'm working for now.
That's awesome, man. I'm not surprised by any of what you just said, bro, because you were a grinder from beginning to end. Like, I always knew you were, number one, you always took it personal, right? That means you cared. That means you cared, right? That's what that means. When a person they care, you never were afraid of hard work. That was never the problem. And you were relentless. And so to hear that you did all of those things and then you managed to accumulate the trophies. I got the education, I got the thing, and now you got this new opportunity. That's great, brother. So what do you hope? I mean, real quick, as we get ready to kind of land the plane where we're at, what are your hopes for the future? You know yet? Have you thought that far yet?
Well, yeah, that's hard. I think, priorities have definitely shifted. I have kind of a career going and I'm comfortable in that. I'm doing okay. And so now it's more about we're homeschooling both of our kids. So Melissa's homeschooling both kids. She's at home.
Okay.
My son's riding dirt bikes and racing and golf, and my daughter's doing golf and soccer. And so we're really, we're obviously managing our careers and things like that. And I don't know what Melissa's plan is. I'm sure she'll get a job when, the kids are a little more self-reliant and things like that.
Homeschooling is not easy, dude. COVID taught us all that. It's hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's what, we're definitely just looking, we have a home, we purchased it. So we're definitely happy where we're at and things like that. I think moving forward, it's, keep building on my career, obviously, whether it's new opportunities or opportunities within this, the same company, and they've treated me really well. So
that's cool, man. And also your kids are super. I mean, my youngest son is 11, right? My oldest son is 17 now, but my youngest son's 11. And so when I look at life and I think that if I start to let myself feel like I'm getting old, like, nah, brother, ain't no time for all that. You got an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? And then I want to live to see that young man grow up and have a family and be so in order for that to happen, you got to stay healthy, happy, and hopefully optimistic for the future. So the only thing I would say to you, brother, is just take some time to think about your future life's investments, right? So you can have the money so they did not have to work.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And enjoy the ride, bro.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride. So, hey, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to go ahead and hit you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And feel free, if it brings a memory up, feel free to let me hear that sea story. Okay.
Okay.
Because not very often do I get to just talk GW with somebody. I'm telling you what, people don't understand, the hardest tour of my 25-year career. Without it, my career was threatened more in that 3 years than any other time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been yelled at worse than when I was a senior chief petty officer. Oh my God. I used to get tore up. Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you remember when I used to listen to Christmas music in my office?
I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Walter, to this day, Walter would be like, Walter was like, Gary, you don't understand what it's like getting chewed out to Christmas music.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, you have to understand, because it was the whole thing throughout my career. I said on the GW, my sailors knew if they heard holiday music, we're leaving them alone today. I'm over there trying to freaking decompress, woosah. Oh my God. Come on, Mariah Carey, fix the problem.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. I love that shit though, man. I loved our classroom.
Yeah, the classroom was cool. So I actually did run the classroom for like 2 to 3 months. I thought I was good. So system shop for 3.5 years. And they're like, Matthew, go do the training classroom. We know you're kind of stressed out. And I love Tyler. But 2 months later, they gave it to Tyler, and I wanted to fight him. I was like, dude, I was supposed to kind of, not relax, but you're not in system shop. And so they took that away from me.
It was a very visible role, right? Yeah. You would get a lot of people pumped through there. And what's funny is when I first got to GW, none of that was happening. Like we stood all that up during my time, right? Because I knew the power of the D Seaman was not in our job. It was in what we had to offer the whole crew. Remember, I would tell y'all, we got the hottest thing going. We got this damage control training. Y'all got to get out there, make friends, and get those warfare pins and leverage that. And then that's all we had to offer, right? We didn't have much else. So, okay, looking back on your career or your time in the military in particular, or now, what do you think is one of the most valuable leadership lessons you might have picked up along the way?
I think probably, especially in our role, doing some of the maintenance we were doing and the equipment we were messing with SOPVs and AFFF systems, even Halon was intimidating. I would honestly say like attention to detail, especially when you're doing like these huge, massive tag outs, which I had to do a bunch of different times. Yep. It was, you mess up one tag, you don't double up your main seawater line. You're shooting seawater over a $4 billion jet, and you are. So it was. I thought really ensuring you knew what you were doing and attention to detail and really teaching the younger guys about that too. I remember standing in front of an ASSS. It did not make sense to me, Gary. I was like, dude, okay, so you got seawater, valve here, valve there. We got to double tag the valves. We got to get the AFFF coming in. And one day I was standing there and it popped. And I knew the whole system. It was really odd. It hit me. And so, I loved training the new guys that came to the system shop and things like that. So that really became like something I love doing.
Have you ever had that moment where you were like, once upon a time, I was really good at something, and I'm never going to do that thing again?
I know. Yeah, I did think about
that.
Isn't
that weird? Like, when I walked off the George Washington, I was like, I will never do what I just did ever again. And don't get me wrong, I don't miss a lot about it, but it was nice to know that I was really good at something, right? Yeah. And I've leveraged that experience in a lot of other things in my life, So I definitely can relate to what you just said. And I agree. Attention to detail. And I think also the other thing you said is gaining mastery of something to the point of where if you miss something, you're like, I got to do the whole thing again now because someone could get hurt or it's a problem, right? So I get it. All right. So what do you think is one of the biggest leadership challenges that are facing people today in society? Well, it could be in your organization. It could just be something you see commonly around the world.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've loved about pretty much all of my jobs is I think I've had pretty good leaders, to be honest. So I have had that. I think sometimes leadership fails to really understand or not on a personal level, get to know your worker, like such a personal level. But I do think it's important to understand, like, yeah, you got kids, maybe you're not going to, understand what's going on in their life to better guide them and be able to take advantage of what their strengths may be. So some folks might be really, really good at communicating. Other folks are behind the scenes working on systems or AFFF. Whatever it is, I think understanding what someone's strengths and weaknesses can be.
I think that's well said, brother. A leader's job is to know their people, right? And to learn how to best manage it. And it's one of the most complicated pieces because we are all individually wrapped, right? All right. Now you're a parent. So my next question, I have a lot of my students listen to this. I'm a teacher now.
It's awesome. I see that.
I love it, man. It's almost as much fun as being a sailor, right? Just being honest. It really is.
Awesome.
And then, of course, I have parents that also listen to the podcast that are raising teenagers, right? And it's hard. It's complicated. So how do you think leadership skills can be leveraged or used by parents that are raising children, especially children like your kids that are about to go into the adolescent years?
Yeah. So, my experience with children, I think patience could be good sometimes. Yeah, young children running around homeschooled all day, I think takes a lot of patience.
Okay. Yeah. So having patience, finding grace.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah, that's
I support that. I support that, man. And the one thing that I always tried to do, I even still through this life, if I ever crush somebody quickly, I always try to go back around and have a conversation and be like, hey, man, there wasn't time for the full-on thing, but here's the why. Because, not everyone can handle a deliberate communication, and you have to learn that. And then I think that to your point, and what I got better at in life was I learned to be quiet and kind of let it play out a little bit more. Because not everything has to get an immediate response. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I can
during our years on the GW, I was the direct guy. Or when you're a dad and your kid's right in front of you, you got to get them safe quickly, make sure they're okay. But then as they get older, I see this with teenagers a lot. I saw this a lot as a command master chief. I don't have to always say something right away, right? I can almost be like, huh. And then they can sit on it and stew on it. Well, tell me what you got to say. Maybe later.
Yeah.
Right? Oh no, right?
Yeah.
You let them because you maybe there's more information that you got to find out, right? And I think that comes with being a little more seasoned, a little more experienced. And I will tell you as a dad, my older son, my 17-year-old, definitely got different parts of me than my younger son got.
Yeah.
Right. because it's just experience, right? You kind of learn as a dad, you learn as a person. Good. So
Absolutely.
what's a piece of advice you would give to somebody who's struggling? Like, imagine you're a sailor, you're DC-3 on board those aircraft carriers anywhere in the world, even the George Washington that's back in Japan now, right?
Yep.
That you got a DC-3 on there right now in the system shop, figuring out tags and ESOMs for Q1s and Q2s, right? What would you say to that person that's probably struggling, trying to understand, like, what in the heck, right?
I would say I think the whole crew, that's really hard on an individual level. I think the entire leadership for that system shop, whether it's a DC-1, a DC-2 running it, depending on how big it is, I think you really got to be able to work with your leadership on something like that. And also, have a plan. Be like, hey, here's what I see. Here's what I think next steps are forward, and be able to collaborate those ideas and really work together, because something like that is not a one-person shop. That's a team effort that has to be coordinated. And so, yeah, being in the Navy can be frustrating and hard. But during those times of frustration, even my good friends, I remember arguing with Tyler about things. You got to be able to work together, which we would come together and do. Like, okay, Monroy, let's go get this done. I know it's 2 a.m, but really, leverage. I wouldn't say the full chain of command, but at least your leadership within your small group, and then leveraging out to chiefs and senior chiefs. And I think most of the time you'll find that everybody wants to be able, it's the same goal, is to get this stuff done, get it done right, make sure things are working. And so it has to be teamwork.
So, brother, what I'm hearing is don't isolate yourself and collaborate with people.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm hearing. And I agree, because people will go through their thing where they feel like they're the only one that's going through it, or they feel isolated, or they start to feel depressed or sad or angry or whatever it is. And more often than not, you just need to talk to people and maybe ask for some help or whatever. And, I think that is always the most critical thing, because for me in my career, as soon as I ask for help, that's a huge sign that, like, oh my God, he needs help.
Yeah.
Right. And when people rally for that, it's super, super inspiring, because you're like, oh, dude, people care that I'm okay, even though you can't always tell when we're all just rowing, right? We're all just rowing. Yeah. Everyone's just rowing. And I think that's smart. So good job. How do you think veterans can leverage their experiences in the civilian world, right? So if you're a guy getting out of the military, right, what do you think they could do to best prepare for life after the service?
I think pretty easily keep the same work ethic. The amount of work we were doing in the Navy is nothing compared to any civilian job ever. So, leverage that work ethic and be thankful for where you're at, I think. And I was thankful to be in the Navy. I think sometimes you're extremely frustrated sitting down in a shaft alley, having to go down there for, it's 15th time on that watch, going and checking, tanks to make sure they're empty or full, or what their levels are at. And so, take that same work ethic, and I think you're going to do just fine in the civilian world. And not only do I think you're going to do fine, I think you're going to knock it out of the park. Keep the same work ethic.
So here's what I want to say to the people listening to the sound of our voice. If you didn't hear what my man said, get that work ethic first, though, right? Like, don't be a halfway sailor, halfway anything in life, and then wonder why you're not finding success. This man put it down like daily, always, right? I promise you that. I'm telling y'all. People know I don't just give anyone their flowers for no reason. This guy is a freaking grinder. And I agree. If you can rise to the level of a sustained superior performer in the United States Navy, or the United States Army, or in the Marine Corps, or in the Air Force, or anywhere, I promise you can find success anywhere in this life. Secret, it's the same thing in the civilian world. If you're very successful in high school, if you're very successful in college, if you're very successful in anywhere, fill in the blank, whatever you did to get there, don't stop.
Yeah.
But don't stop growing either. Always look for opportunities to mature, to grow, to develop, because people will get tired and just quit or like throw a fit or whatever it is. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that's a road to nowhere, right? It's just not how it works. Now, strategic pause, I got it.
Yes.
Strategic recovery, I got it. Ask for help, I got it. Those are all tools to help you get back on the horse and go again. But you gotta work hard to get to that point. It's not an easy road, right? Would you agree?
Oh yeah. No, so going from firefighting systems in the Navy into like water quality monitoring, it's completely different. And you have to relearn something. And yeah, absolutely be open to looking at the folks who have been doing something for a while, whether that's Navy, whether that's in water resources, learn from them. And I agree, keep learning, because there's really no point in a job where you stop learning anything or relearning something that you haven't done in a long time. So be open and act, always be open to, hey, I got to keep learning.
Well said. All right, man, you're on the ship. It's a weekend, Saturday night. Are you looking forward to pizza or wings?
Wings.
Wings. Okay. It was do you remember when that guy turned the part of the mess decks into a restaurant?
That was the best. What was his name? But
he was the food service officer. I remember that.
He was great.
He was like the Iron Chef guy.
Yeah, he did some stuff for us, which was really cool.
He did. We had the Starbucks on board. Oh my God, all those cups were everywhere.
I know.
Okay, so question: would you rather get birthing cleaners or the working party?
Birthing cleaners.
Oh, no, okay. Birthing cleaners. I'm not mad at you. If we're watching a movie, would you rather watch a De Niro movie or a Pacino movie?
De Niro.
Okay, De Niro. Okay. Looking back on your career or looking back on your life in general, do you have a favorite duty station or a favorite place that you've chosen that you spent time in the military?
It would have to be Japan. I think there was a lot of great memory. Even with, yeah, Yoko was awesome. The food was absolutely stunning. I want pepper lunch and Coco's right now. That was and it was just fun being there with a whole bunch of young folks where we all kind of grew together. That was great. So it's got to be.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. Okay. What about favorite Liberty port?
Ooh, went to Hong Kong 4 times. Singapore and Sentosa Island was a really good time.
Yeah, Singapore. Okay, I like it. Respect. Okay, what was the most challenging qualification you ever earned when you were in the military?
So I got air and surface warfare. I mean, DC2 was, I ended up getting DC2 as well. So obviously I would throw in DC2, just going from an E1. I got to ship as an E1, finished as an E5. I think air warfare was a little bit tougher because we weren't working on those systems or with that verbiage very often. It was all engineering and surface warfare stuff. So I think air warfare was a little bit tougher than surface warfare.
Okay, I get that. Looking back on your career, you were of course an overseas sailor. Do you wish you had been stateside instead of overseas?
No.
Okay.
No. I think that was a great experience.
It really is, yeah. All right. Do you have a favorite movie series?
Ooh, people are gonna call me a nerd. Fell in love with all the Marvel movies up to Endgame, but we also love Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. So
I get it, brother. I'm into it. Harry Potter. First time I ever saw a Harry Potter movie, I didn't even know what it was. Yeah. I was on recruiting duty, and me and my friend were just like, "There's this movie called Harry Potter." We walked out of the movie theater, and I was sold, bro. I was like, "Wow, that's a great freaking movie, dude."
I grew up on that, so that's
Yeah, I love it. And, it's. I'm looking forward to the new series they're making on HBO or whatever it is. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Would you rather be independent or on a team?
On a team, has to be.
Okay. Do you have a personal or a favorite leadership philosophy?
I would say connecting with your team. I think
Okay.
I think that's a big thing. Connecting with your team and leveraging how your team, individuals can make a team better in different aspects. I haven't been in very many, I was definitely in some leadership role by the end of the Navy with system shops and things like that. They definitely had a lot more responsibility on me, but I haven't been like a supervisor or a manager or anything like that. Although at the U.S. Geological Survey, I possibly training as well, as a more senior person somewhere doing training with the new folks.
Okay, I agree. All those are perfect. So in the Navy, in the chief petty officer community, we have these guiding principles. The first, it goes deck plate leadership. There's institutional or technical expertise. There's professionalism, character, loyalty, active communication, uh, sense of heritage. Out of those, what I just kind of listed off, do any of those kind of appeal to you as being the most important one?
Mm. One of them was active. You said communication.
Yep.
I'd probably say that.
Okay, good. I like it. And it's true. Up and down the chain of command is communication, right? Cool. Would you rather lead or follow?
If I knew what I was doing, lead. If I was new to something, follow. That way I wasn't acting like I was leading.
I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. My heart always goes out to the people that get put in leadership positions and they're not quite sure what they're doing. And because I've been there, right? And I always tell them, trust in your people. They'll help you because just don't forget to make sure they get the recognition for what you're doing because they're the ones that really know it. And it's tough pickle to be in, right? Tough pickle to be in. Okay, so you know what? I actually got a friend request from Zuniga last night of all people. That was interesting.
Did you?
Yeah.
Super cool. Zuniga was one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go.
I that came out of left field. I hit up Salgado as well to see if she wanted to be on the show. I got to hit up Davalava. I got her, I think, on Facebook. I got Connard, aka what was Connor's name before she got married?
Delian Artist.
Delian Artist. Yeah. So I got her as well. I would love to get old shipmates on here, man, just to talk shop and reminisce a little bit because what a freaking, I mean, it's weird to think it was over. I mean, it's 2025 now. It's about 10 years ago or more than 10 years ago now. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, brother, I appreciate your time. It's last up to you. Do you have any saved rounds or alibis?
Any what? I'm sorry, safe grounds?
In the Navy, when we get to the end of a brief or a meeting, we'll ask if has anybody been saving any rounds they want to send at the speaker, right? Because typically it's like you're getting shot, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, did anybody save any rounds they want to send at me? Or did anybody have any alibis? Like before we wrap the meeting up, I got one more thing I want to say because everyone's usually tired of the meeting. Okay. And there's always somebody that's I got one more thing. So that's why we usually say, do you have any saved rounds or alibis?
Okay, cool. Two things. I wore a special shirt for you today. If you didn't notice.
Well, I don't know. Tell me about the shirt.
Navy polo.
DW?
It's all the ships in the Navy. I thought it was cool.
That's awesome, bro.
And then I wanted to ask you if you remembered one thing that me and Melissa talk about quite a bit. We told our family, things like I remember being probably an E2, E3 at this point, and you caught us, I think, talking on the aft deck or somewhere near there in a hallway, and you kind of busted my butt for it. It was pretty good.
I don't remember.
You don't? Oh, you got me. Oh yeah. You didn't terrify Melissa. I was just a young sailor. You were chief, and we were running things, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna be in trouble, Melissa. I was like, we gotta stop meeting up in this place, Anyways, we were very good on the ship and try not to create any problems. But I always remember this one point you caught us like 2 months after we got on the ship. And it was during deployment. We were heading back to Japan. And first deployment, I was like, he doesn't like me. I was like, oh, he's got his eyes on me.
I will tell you, I remember that your relationship with her was solid, right? And I like the fact that y'all stayed consistent and that it was like I felt like it was a real thing because
Oh,
I had
sure.
watched a lot of my sailors go
Oh, yeah.
through unhealthy relationships, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And especially my young female sailors. I was very protective of my young ladies, right? Because I I never had daughters
Yeah.
and I still don't have daughters, right? So a lot of my cadets are females and I really am I love my guys, don't get me wrong, but there's
Yeah.
just a special place in my heart for my young ladies. And so I always had mad respect for you and her relationship. And that's why even if I asked the question or whatever it was just checking in. Just I
Uh-huh.
know. Okay, check, Roger that.
Uh-huh.
Um, now I remember busting Delia Nardis kissing her boyfriend in the damn shop. That would have got you in trouble, right?
You got Del kissing in the shop?
Oh yeah. Well, she was. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was gay. Oh yeah. And Quiddick, I think, was in the shop too. And it was a wrap, bro.
Oh.
I told him, beat me to my office. Beat me.
Oh.
Remember that? Remember
Yeah.
those days? You better
Uh-huh.
beat me to my office.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so and I love Dell too, right? I love Del Leonardo's. I respected her relationship, but don't do that in our spaces
We're in the
because I didn't
Navy.
want people to think
Yeah.
that we were just in violation, right? But I don't remember that moment, right?
No,
And
that's
honestly, I had nothing but love for you, man. And I remember Daly when I was putting Daly through Chiefs initiation, he was like, dude, Clipville, you might want to talk to Clipville someday because he thinks you really hate him, bro. And I was like, no, I love that dude.
Oh, I didn't think you hated me. I thought no, we I didn't think you hated me. I think, listen, another tidbit I'll give you. I remember you guys were ranking all of the sailors, and I knew you didn't hate me, mostly because you guys pretty much put me ranked, and this is not bragging or anything, like number one to like for promotion and things like that, pretty much every time. And so I kind of thought you were putting not more pressure on me, but like holding me to a different standard or something like that. And then there was that thing that happened with Melissa. And listen, we're on a Navy military ship, a fighting ship. That's no place for relationships and things like that. And listen, we know a couple of our sailors got kicked out of the Navy and things like that. So you're looking out for sailors like, dude, if I don't catch you, you're done. So stop.
No, yeah. I don't even know. Yeah. That was probably when I look back on my 25-year career, fraternization was like the number one thing I hated having to worry about.
Yeah.
Because I just wished I lived in a world that people could be professionals regardless of their personal relationships, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is once there's a rule in place, we don't get to pick and choose which rules we follow, right? Or I have to always be doing my best to defend the rule or to support the rule, but I also got to be realistic, right? And so trust me, there was a lot of times I just kind of looked the other way, right? But I really went after senior people messing with junior people.
Oh yeah.
I didn't play that crap. I wasn't a fan of that. Right? I still am not, right? And unfortunately, you'll see it even in the public school system. And it's weird and it's gross, right? And it's just weird. And it's people are unhealthy. Let's just be honest, right? They need to figure out their life and maybe get Jesus in their world or something, And then I didn't like people that were liars, right? I still don't, right? I think that I would tell my sailors the truth even if they didn't want to hear it. And I didn't like when other leaders would lie because it's what people wanted to hear, right? Because then it would make people have false expectations. And then there you go, right? And so and on an aircraft carrier, it's hard to manage when you got a lot of senior people out in the haunch or whatever, right? Does that make sense? And so that was a tough piece, and that's never changed. It's still the same way to this day, right? But I've also learned, not everyone knew this about me. You guys did because you were around me, but a lot of people on the ship was scared of me. But if you knew me, you knew I'd go to war for you. But you also knew that if you had a problem with a DC man, you could expect a short ball-headed dude with freaking anchors. I'm coming your way, bro, and we're gonna have a conversation. Right. And so no. But I think that's funny that I appreciate that you guys remember that though. And I'm glad I could be a part of your guys' stories to tell.
Oh, right? It wasn't nothing negative. It's my chief. I'm a brand new sailor. I'm getting caught freaking talking to this girl on the ship. I'm like, you're messing up already, Clipfell. Yeah.
Nah, man, I thought it was great. You talk to any of those other guys, tell them I'd love to connect. We're all much older. I'm retired now. I just want to, I'm interested to hear their sea stories as well. This is why I'm doing this, is because we all have interesting stories.
Yep.
And I love reconnecting with people, and I would still go to war for you guys to this day, right? At the end of it all, because I know you guys are freaking awesome. And that's just how it is, right? It's just like that. So
yeah. And well, I'm glad you also you're in. I don't know why Walter's not getting on here, but he was a staunch supporter of you because he knew, once you left and, things like, he's like, dude, Senior Wise kept this place going, like, good. And so you should have him on. I really looked up to you. I was, I think there's obviously some intimidation factor of a young sailor and his chief and things like that, obviously. But
for sure.
No, you did a great job. Honestly, a lot of the things that you guys taught us, hard work, and so I carried that on.
No,
with me.
I definitely want to get Walter on here. I'm trying to get Fuqua on here. I want to get Douglas on here. Those are all some guys I want to get. I remember the time. Do you remember when there was something that happened where some Japanese went in Repair 5?
Oh yes.
Okay, so I was in. He says, "Oh yes." So I was in Norfolk, and they contacted me, right? And they wanted me to write a letter to say that basically to cover for them. And I was like, "Look, bro, I'll write a letter saying nothing but great things about you, but y'all know better than that. Like, there's no way that should have never happened." And even they were like, "Damn, like he's even hitting us from there." I was like, "Look, I'll write a letter, but Matt, I can't save you from this one. It is what it is." So, I look forward to getting him on. Hopefully he'll watch this when I release it. I told him we were going to be on too, so we'll see.
Good.
So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Tell the family I said hello, and if y'all ever come out to Florida, let me know.
I will let you know for sure. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, dude, love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate y'all. Everybody listening to the sounds of our voice, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. We appreciate y'all. All right, man. I'll see you later. Peace.
Bye.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know